Hello, everybody. This is Dan Jablons talking to you from Retail Smart Guys. Glad you're here to see this presentation called Cash Hidden in Your Store. This is a presentation we've done a couple of places for retailers around the world, actually, to help them figure out where there might be some cash that's actually hidden in your store. So watch this carefully. This is a great presentation to download and to look at from time to time to make sure you're doing everything you can to get the most cash out of your business. This presentation is actually based on a book called Acres of Diamonds by someone named Russell Conwell. And he suggests that in order to find additional profitability in your business, the best place to do it is to dig in your own backyard. And never before than in retail is this more relevant. A lot of times when I talk to retailers around the world, I say, where is your growth going to come from? And I'll hear, well, we're going to open more stores, or I've got to get that next amazing line to sell, or I'm going to have to hire better salespeople, or something like that. But in actual fact, a lot of times the profitability that's actually locked in your stores or hidden in your stores is really inside your own business if you know where to look and you know how to look. So this presentation is going to talk a little bit more about places where we have helped other retailers find cash or diamonds in their own backyard. Okay, now what you're about to see when I show you some actual case examples this is not theory. These are actual stores. This is their actual results. This is actually what happened at each of those stores. So we show these so that you get the idea of that this is not theory. This is stuff that can actually be done and is being done in retailers all around the world. So our first one is called the Vendor Scorecard, and it was developed actually by bigger retailers. Okay, I didn't invent this. I actually learned about it while working with some of the larger retailers around. Okay, and basically the idea behind the Vendor Scorecard is to basically ensure that you and the vendor understand what is in each department working for that vendor and what isn't working. Okay, so the Vendor Scorecard basically is a way to show what did I receive from that vendor, what was my initial markup, what was I planning to get from it, then what did I sell, what was my maintained markup, what did I actually get, and what am I still left with. Okay, that's the idea about the Vendor Scorecard, and we'll have a separate Vendor Scorecard for you to go get and download so you can see a sample of what it looks like. But basically, the job of it is to set the right expectation for everybody. You know what's working, they know what's working, okay? You get to see what works in their line, what's not working. Maybe they're a great tops vendor, but they're a lousy bottoms vendor, okay? Maybe there's certain types of jewelry they do great in and other types of jewelry they don't do well in. Maybe it's a price point issue. But the Vendor Scorecard tells you that, okay? It also enables you to negotiate better and give you some leverage when you're talking to that vendor. What do I mean by that? Well, if you bought a lot of goods from a vendor and they didn't sell, they're not selling well, the Vendor Scorecard is the actual specific information that that vendor needs to be able to help you to either maybe take the goods back, go back to their boss, negotiate markdowns, negotiate credits, negotiate free shipping. These are all things that people have done with the Vendor Scorecard, even if they're small, single-store retailers. It's actually having that data in a way that the vendor can digest it that enables you to negotiate with that vendor and get more from that relationship, okay? Point number 5 is important. If your sales rep doesn't have the authority to offer you discounts or to do something special for you, he or she then has a document to go back to their boss and say, hey, this is what happened at this store, this is what we should do for them, okay? Now that said, sometimes you do a Vendor Scorecard with a vendor and they look at it and they go, you know, I understand what happened here, but it is our policy not to do anything. We don't offer markdown money, we don't take goods back, we don't sponsor sales contests, we don't do any of that kind of stuff. If that's the case, then at least you know. And you'll know before you go to the marketplace which vendors will help you, which ones give you that get-out-of-jail-free card, which ones won't. Okay? The idea about the Vendor Scorecard is something called cash margin. Okay, so look at the math on this slide, and I'll walk you through it. Okay, I initially buy from a vendor $1,000 at cost. Okay, that's my purchase. I plan to get $2,200 at retail, so my planned margin is $1,200. Right? It's line 2 minus line 1. So I'm spending $1,000 with that vendor, hoping to get $2,200 at retail, $1,200 at cost. Now, what actually happens? Well, what actually happens in real life is I only sell $1,700. Why? Well, maybe some was damaged, some was marked down, and maybe some didn't sell, okay? So my actual cash margin, not profit margin, but cash margin, okay, is my actual sales, or line 4, minus what I've spent, line 1. Now you got to remember that any point of sale system is going to show you the profit margin on the goods that you sell. So if I buy something for $100, I sell it for $200, any point of sale system will tell you that your margin on that's 50%, which is true. But what if you sold one and bought 100? Okay, from a cash margin perspective, you're upside down. So that's why we look at your actual sales, line 4, minus line 1. What did you actually spend? Okay, the difference there is $700. Okay, so my unachieved cash margin is $500, or I was hoping to get $1,200 in cash margin. I only got $700. Okay, now what you do with that is you give those numbers to a vendor and you say, hey, listen, I spent $1,000 with you. I was hoping to get $2,200 in sales. I was hoping to get $1,200 in margin, but I only got $700 in margin. I'm short $500. What can you do for me? And then say nothing. Just, I'm short $500. What can you do for me? Okay? That vendor now has to do something with that. Okay? And again, maybe there's some that'll do nothing, but somebody's going to figure out something to do with it. Okay? All right. So the vendor scorecard runs by department and then class or subclass. It shows the individual styles. You got to watch it to watch that vendors may be good in one class but bad in another. Okay. Now, when you show the vendor scorecard to them, and make sure you download the little sample I'm going to give you. Okay, the little handout. But you want to make sure that you've talked to the vendor about what you've tried to do to salvage the situation. They don't want to think that you just gave up. So they want to know that you tried a markdown, you did a spiff with your salespeople. You moved it around the store, you promoted it through all your social media. They want to know all the things that you've tried before you came to them to resolve that situation, okay? And at the same time, point number 5 is very important. You have to let them know what you're going to do to get your dollars out if they don't help you. So, I spent $1,000 with you. I was hoping for $1,200 in margin. I was hoping to get all those goods sold. They didn't sell. I'm left with $500, $600 worth of inventory that I can't sell. I'm going to have to mark it down. And when I mark it down, I am going to promote that it's your goods that I'm marking down because that helps me sell it. Some vendors who will really not like that would rather take it back from you than, or help you in some way, than have you promote their goods. Okay? Okay, so if you're short in cash margin, what can you do? Well, have them help you pay for the markdowns, pay for the difference, keep your margin whole. That happens in lots of different industries, by the way. Contribute to outstanding bills. Listen, I'm short $500. How about we just deduct that from my outstanding invoice, okay? Or credit it to what you're going to buy for next season, especially if it's a vendor you're going to continue with, okay? Get some free freight, get some promotional pricing, get some to sponsor a sales contest. There's lots of ways to use that cash margin that they can help you with that. Not all of it is just pure markdown money. Sometimes it's other ways that they can help you that enables you to get more out of it. Okay? Okay. The second way that we find some diamonds in people's backyards is something called selling costs. So first, how do you calculate selling costs? It's what you paid someone divided by their net sales, sales minus returns, and we're not counting taxes, and we're not counting shipping or gift wrapping or any of that kind of stuff, okay? So look at the example that's here. For the payroll cost for employee A was $1,700 for the month of January, okay? That employee sold $12,500 in the month of January, so that employee's cost, their selling cost is $1,700 divided by $12,500, or 13.6%. Now, frankly, that's a little high. Okay, you want to measure this by sales associate, by the against the store, okay, and then the total store also, and you want to do it weekly, monthly, and annually. The idea here, okay, is if I could reduce my selling cost by just a little bit, I can actually bring more cash to the bottom line. Okay, so here's a real example. I have a store. Their total expenses were 42% of their sales. That was kind of high too. Okay, their fixed expenses are 23% of sales. Now, it's fixed expenses. They don't change, right? That's their rent every single month, okay? That's their alarm bill every single month, et cetera, okay? So we can't change their fixed expenses, but their variable expenses were 19% of sales, and the selling payroll was 12%. So we said, okay, what if I could knock that down a little bit? So what if I could get my selling payroll from 12% to 10%? What would that look like? Okay? Well, it looks like this. So if you look at this chart, this is an actual store, and you'll see that their sales revenue didn't change between the original and the improved situations, right? 756.16. Fixed expenses also didn't change. They were both 172,493, okay, because they're fixed expenses. They don't change, okay? That said, their variable expenses went from 142 to 127. So their profit before cost of goods sold went from 435 up to 450, which is an increase of $15,000 or 3.4% on revenue of $750,000. Now, how do you improve your selling costs? Well, you do it by better scheduling. You do it by maybe improving your commission plan. You get smarter about who's on staff when, those sorts of things, okay? But this is a place where we found $15,000 inside that store without having to change their sales. Okay, now one store did even more. They offered a productivity bonus to the manager. They said, listen, if you get if you get me another 5% increase, I'm going to give you $1,000. Okay, so now watch what happens here. Okay, the first two columns in this one are the same as what they were before. Okay, my revenue didn't change in the first two. My fixed expenses stay the same all the way across the page. Okay, but now when you look at this third column, there's a 5% revenue increase, right? So we go from 750 to 788. Okay, again, my fixed expenses stay the same. My variable goes 142 down to 127, but then back up to 133. Why? Because it's a variable expense, and I had some more selling. Okay, but what happens is my profit before cost of goods goes from 435 to 481, or I pick up $46,000 by generating a 5% revenue increase and a 10% variable expense decrease. It's pretty impressive, right? That's a big, big, big change in the bottom line, okay? Just by doing two little tweaks, right? One was we lowered our selling cost by 2%, and the other was looking for a 5% revenue increase.